I stood up in that fancy ballroom, my hands shaking as I pulled the bank statement from my purse. The paper crinkled loud in the sudden silence. Gabrielle's mother, Mrs. Vivian Montgomery, froze mid-toast, her champagne glass hanging in the air like a question mark. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice carrying across that room of 200 guests, in their designer clothes and diamond jewelry. "But I think y'all need to hear something." My son Darius's face went pale. He was sitting at the head table in his expensive tuxedo next to his new wife Gabrielle in her $50,000 wedding dress. They both stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Maybe keeping this secret for 8 months, watching these people treat me like trash, was crazy. But I had to know. I had to see who would respect me just for being me. And who would only care about my money. I held up that bank statement, the numbers clear as day even from across the room. "Mrs. Montgomery, you just gave a beautiful toast about family values and knowing where you come from," I said. "You talked about how Gabrielle was raised with class and dignity, how she knows quality when she sees it." Vivian's perfectly painted lips pressed into a thin line. Her husband, Richard Montgomery, set down his fork. "You've spent the last 8 months making jokes about my blue-collar background," I continued. My voice was steady now, strong. "You seated me at table 19 tonight, in the back corner, with people you called the casual guests. You put me behind the DJ booth where I could barely see my own son get married." "Mother—" Darius started to stand, but Gabrielle grabbed his arm. "This bank statement shows the balance of just one of my accounts," I said, holding it higher. $195 million. That's $195,000. I could have paid for this whole wedding 100 times over and still had money left to buy this entire hotel. The room exploded with gasps and whispers. "But I kept it secret," I said, looking straight at Darius. "I kept it secret to see who would treat me right without knowing. And now I know exactly who y'all really are." Before we continue, shout out to Keisha Williams from Detroit, Michigan. "We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing." Let me take you back to where this all started. 8 months ago, on a cold February morning, my husband Robert died on a Tuesday. 62 years old, massive heart attack, gone before the ambulance even arrived. We'd been married 40 years. 40 years of eating beans and rice to make ends meet, clipping coupons, working double shifts. Robert drove trucks for 35 years. I worked as a cafeteria manager at Lincoln Elementary School, serving lunch to kids who reminded me of my own Darius when he was little. We weren't poor, but we weren't rich either. We lived in a small 3-bedroom house in the same neighborhood where we'd raised Darius. We drove old cars, shopped at thrift stores, saved every penny we could to help Darius through medical school. We were proud of our simple life. Or so I thought. 3 weeks after Robert's funeral, his lawyer called me, Mr. Gerald Hayes, a man I'd never met or even heard Robert mention. He said he needed to discuss Robert's estate. I figured it was just the house, maybe a small life insurance policy, our savings account with about $40,000 in it. I met Mr. Hayes at his office downtown. Nice building, the kind with marble floors and art on the walls. I felt out of place in my church dress and comfortable shoes. "Mrs. Washington," Mr. Hayes said, sitting across from me with a thick folder. "I'm going to be direct with you because I think that's what Robert would have wanted." "Okay," I said, confused. "Your husband was a very wealthy man." I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. "Mr. Hayes, I think you got the wrong Robert Washington. My husband drove trucks." "Yes, ma'am, he did. But he also invested, very wisely, for over 30 years. Mr. Hayes opened that folder and my whole world tilted sideways. Robert had started investing in the early 1980s. Small amounts at first, money he made doing side jobs, fixing engines, helping people move. He never touched our regular money, never let our bills go unpaid. But every extra dollar he made, he invested. Stocks, real estate, bonds. He was smart about it, careful. He read books, studied, learned. By the time the tech boom hit in the late 90s, Robert had enough invested that he made serious money. He took those profits and bought rental properties when the market crashed, sold them high, bought low, over and over. Your husband's portfolio is worth approximately $195 million, Mr. Hayes said, plus the house you live in, which is paid off. Everything is in trust accounts, properly managed, all legal and documented. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. Why didn't he tell me? I whispered. Mr. Hayes pulled out a letter, Robert's handwriting, shaky but clear. He left this for you, the lawyer said gently. I read it right there, tears dripping onto the paper. Lorraine, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry I never told you. I kept this secret for 40 years because I was scared. Scared of how money changes people. Scared of losing what we had, that real, honest love built on respect and hard work, not dollar signs. I grew up watching money destroy my father. He inherited wealth from his parents, and it poisoned him. Made him mean, suspicious, turned our whole family against each other. By the time he died, he was alone with his money and nothing else. I didn't want that for us. I didn't want you loving me for what I had instead of who I was. I didn't want Darius growing up entitled, thinking he didn't have to work for anything. I wanted him to be a good man, Lorraine. And look at him, he's a doctor, helping people. Because we raised him right. Now it's all yours. Do whatever you want with it. But remember, money shows you who people really are. It's a test everyone eventually fails, unless they've got real character. I love you, Rainey. Always did. Always will. Robert. I cried in that lawyer's office for 20 minutes straight. Mr. Hayes got me water, tissue, gave me time. When I finally calmed down, he explained everything. The trusts, the investments, how I'd have access to it all, how it was managed to keep generating income. What do I do now? I asked him. Whatever you want, Mrs. Washington, he said. You're a very wealthy woman. But I didn't feel wealthy. I felt confused and hurt and angry that Robert kept this from me. And at the same time, I understood. I understood completely. I went home to my little house and sat in Robert's recliner. The one with the duct tape on the armrest. We could have had everything new, everything fancy. But we chose simple. We chose real. And maybe Robert was right. Maybe money would have changed us. I decided not to tell anyone. Not yet. I'd keep living my life. Keep working at the school. Keep being me. I'd figure out what to do with this fortune later. Then, 2 weeks after I found out about the money, Darius called with big news. Mama, I'm engaged! My baby boy, 34 years old, a successful emergency room doctor, had finally found someone. I was so happy for him. He'd dated plenty of women over the years, but none of them stuck. He was too focused on his career, too dedicated to his patients. Her name is Gabrielle Montgomery, he said, his voice full of joy. She's a corporate lawyer, smart, beautiful, successful. Mama, I think you're really gonna love her. When do I get to meet her? I asked. This weekend. We're driving down Saturday. I can't wait for you to meet her family, too. They're having a dinner party to celebrate. That Saturday, Darius picked me up in his nice car, a BMW he'd bought after years of driving a beat-up Honda. He worked hard for that car, saved for it, and I was proud. Gabrielle sat in the passenger seat. She was beautiful, light brown skin, long straight hair, expensive clothes. She smiled at me, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's so nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Washington, she said. Darius talks about you all the time. Call me Lorraine, baby, I said. And congratulations. My son is a good man. He really is, she agreed. We drove to the Montgomery estate. And I mean estate. They lived in Summit Hills, where houses started at $3 million. Their home was massive, brick and stone, circular driveway, perfectly manicured lawn, columns at the entrance, orchestrated narrative tension and paced chapter within word constraints. I need to continue building the tension and showcasing the Montgomery family's condescending attitude. I should introduce the parents and show their subtle, then not so subtle, classism. I need to build toward the wedding and end on a cliffhanger. I'm at about 1,400 words so far. I have room for about 800 more words to stay under the 2,200 word limit for the chapter. Let me continue with the dinner party scene, showcase the condescension, build up to the wedding, and then end on a cliffhanger right after or during the revelation. I felt small walking up to that door in my Sunday best, a nice pantsuit I'd bought from Macy's on sale. Vivian Montgomery answered the door herself. She was stunning, tall, thin, with short, stylish hair and jewelry that probably cost more than my car. Her smile was practiced, perfect. "You must be Lorraine," she said, looking me up and down. "How charming. Please, come in." The inside of that house looked like a museum. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art that I recognized from museum trips with my students. Everything was white and gold and spotless. Richard Montgomery stood in the living room holding a glass of what looked like expensive whiskey. He was tall, with gray hair and a suit that probably cost $5,000. "So you're Darius's mother," he said, shaking my hand limply. "We've heard so much about you. Darius says you work in food service?" The way he said food service made it sound dirty. "I'm a cafeteria manager at an elementary school," I said proudly. "Been there 23 years. "How noble," Vivian said. "Working with children, that must be fulfilling." We sat down for dinner at a table that could seat 12. The food was fancy. Things I couldn't pronounce, tiny portions arranged like art. I ate quietly while the Montgomerys talked about their business. Richard owned a commercial real estate company. Vivian was on the boards of 3 charities. "Our Gabrielle graduated top of her class at Yale Law," Vivian said. "She could have gone anywhere, but she chose to stay close to family. Family is everything, don't you think, Lorraine?" "Yes, ma'am, it is," I said. "And your husband? Darius mentioned he passed recently. I'm sorry for your loss." Vivian's voice dripped with fake sympathy. "What did he do?" "He was a truck driver," I said. 35 years with Jenkins Transport." The silence that followed felt heavy. "Well," Richard finally said, "hard work is respectable. Blue-collar jobs built this country." But the way he said it made it clear he'd never want to do such work himself. Over the next few months, I met with Gabrielle and her family many times. Every interaction was the same: polite condescension, backhanded compliments, subtle digs. They asked when I'd retire, suggested I might be more comfortable at smaller, quieter wedding events, questioned whether I'd know how to act at their country club. The worst part? Darius didn't notice. Or maybe he did notice, but chose to ignore it. He was so caught up in his new life, his new family, fitting into their world. He started talking differently, dressing differently, spending money on things he never cared about before. When he told me they wanted a huge wedding, 200 guests, at the Grandview Hotel, costing close to $200,000, I asked if he was sure. "Mama, Gabrielle's family has standards," he said. "They're paying for most of it anyway. They want it to be special." "But is it what you want?" I asked. "It's what we both want," he insisted. But his eyes said different. 2 weeks before the wedding, Vivian called me. She wanted to discuss the seating arrangements. "Now, Lorraine, I hope you understand we have a lot of important guests attending," she said. "Business associates, society members, old family friends. We've had to be very strategic about seating." "I understand," I said. "We thought you'd be most comfortable at a table toward the back, with some of the more casual guests. You know, people who aren't used to these formal settings, so you won't feel out of place." My blood went hot. You're seating me at the back? At my own son's wedding? It's for the best, dear. You'll be much more comfortable there. Trust me. I hung up, shaking. That's when I knew. That's when I decided they needed to learn a lesson. I called Mr. Hayes, my lawyer. I need you to print out my main account statement, I said. The one showing the full $195 million balance, on official bank letterhead. Make it clear. Make it bold. Mrs. Washington, are you sure about this? He asked. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The wedding day came. It was beautiful, I'll admit. The Grandview Hotel was decorated like a palace. Flowers everywhere, crystal, gold accents, a 4-tier cake that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Gabrielle wore a custom Vera Wang dress. Darius looked handsome in his Tom Ford tuxedo. But when I arrived and saw my table assignment, table 19 in the back corner behind the DJ booth, something inside me broke and healed at the same time. I sat through the ceremony, watched my baby boy marry a woman whose family looked at me like I was nothing, watched him not even glance back to where I sat, invisible. At the reception, Vivian stood up to give her mother of the bride toast. She went on and on about Gabrielle's accomplishments, their family legacy, their standards, their class. And we're so pleased Darius has joined our family, she said. He comes from humble beginnings, but he's proven himself worthy of our Gabrielle. He's learned what it means to have class, to have standards, to know quality when you see it. That's when I stood up. That's when I pulled out the bank statement. That's when I exposed who they really were. Now, standing in that ballroom with everyone staring at me, I watched the shock spread across their faces. Vivian's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble floor. Darius stood frozen, his face cycling through confusion, shock, disbelief. "Mama," he finally whispered, "what is this?" "This is me showing you who respects you for real and who only respects your money," I said. "I've been watching for 8 months, baby. Watching how they treated me. Watching how you let them." Richard Montgomery's face turned red. "This is outrageous! You can't just—" "I can," I interrupted. "Because unlike y'all, I don't need to prove my worth with fancy houses and fake smiles. Your daughter married my son thinking she was marrying up. Turns out she married way, way up." Gabrielle grabbed Darius's arm. "Darius, say something!" But what could he say? The truth was out now. The question was, what would he do with it? I folded the bank statement carefully and put it back in my purse. Then I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking on that marble floor. I could feel 200 pairs of eyes burning into my back. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping, voices rising, Vivian's sharp, "How dare she?" and Darius calling, "Mama, wait!" But I didn't wait. I walked out of that ballroom with my head high, and I didn't look back. I made it halfway across the hotel lobby before Darius caught up with me. "Mama, please stop!" His voice cracked. "Please, just talk to me." I turned around. My son stood there in his expensive tuxedo, looking lost. Behind him, guests were flooding out of the ballroom, phones out, whispering, staring. This was going to be all over social media within the hour. "Talk about what, Darius?" I asked. "About how you let them seat your mother at table 19? About how you didn't say one word when they called me blue collar like it was a disease?" "I didn't know they seated you in the back," he said. "I swear, Mama, I didn't know. You didn't ask either." My voice was quiet but sharp. "You were so busy trying to fit into their world, you forgot where you came from." Gabrielle appeared beside him, her wedding dress rustling. Her face was flushed, angry. "You humiliated us, in front of everyone. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life." "No, baby," I said, looking straight at her. "I showed everyone the truth. You humiliated yourselves by treating me like trash while smiling in my face." Vivian and Richard pushed through the crowd. Vivian's perfect composure was cracking. "This is unacceptable," she hissed. You disrupted my daughter's wedding with your theatrics." "Theatrics?" I laughed. "Ma'am, I just told the truth. If the truth disrupts your party, maybe you should examine who you really are." "That bank statement could be fake," Richard said, his voice cold. "Probably printed from some website. A desperate attempt to—" I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward them. The balance showed clear as day, $195,247,382.17. Richard's mouth snapped shut. "My lawyer's name is Gerald Hayes," I said. "Downtown on 5th Street. Y'all want proof? Call him Monday morning. He'll verify every penny." I looked back at Darius, my baby boy, the son I raised to be good and kind and respectful, the son who'd somehow forgotten all of that chasing after status. "I kept this secret because your father wanted to see if people would respect us for who we were, not what we had," I told him. "He was right to be careful. Money shows you people's true colors real fast." "But Mama, we could have helped you," Darius said. "You've been working at that school, living in that old house." "I like my job," I interrupted. "I like my house. I like my life." "Just because I have money doesn't mean I have to live like them." I gestured at the Montgomerys. "This is ridiculous," Gabrielle said. "Darius, are you going to let her talk to my family like this?" Darius looked between us, his new wife and his mother. I could see him struggling, calculating, trying to figure out the right move. And that hesitation? That told me everything I needed to know. "I'm going home," I said. "Y'all enjoy your reception." I walked out into the cool evening air and called an Uber. My hands were shaking as I waited. Part of me felt powerful, vindicated. Another part felt heartbroken. 20 minutes later, I was home. My small, comfortable house with the creaky front porch and the garden Robert had planted. I changed out of my fancy clothes into my nightgown and sat in Robert's recliner. "I did it, baby," I whispered to his picture on the wall. "I showed them, but I think I might have lost our son." My phone started ringing. Darius, over and over. I didn't answer. Then texts started flooding in. "Mama, please call me back. We need to talk about this. Gabrielle's family is very upset. Can you please apologize? This could ruin my relationship with them." That last text made me turn off my phone. Sunday morning, I went to church like always. Mount Zion Baptist, where I'd been a member for 38 years. Where Robert and I got married, where Darius was baptized, where our community was. The moment I walked in, I knew word had spread. People stared, whispered. Sister Patricia Jenkins, who'd been my friend for 20 years, rushed over. "Lorraine Washington, is it true?" she asked, eyes wide. "My niece was at that wedding last night. She sent me a video. Girl, please tell me that was real." Before I could answer, Pastor Williams called me into his office. Pastor Williams was 68, had been leading our church for 30 years. He was a good man, wise and kind. He gestured for me to sit. "Lorraine," he said gently, "I heard about what happened last night." "I'm sure the whole city heard by now," I said. "That video has 20,000 views already." He paused. "Is it true? About the money?" I nodded. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Robert never said a word. Not in 40 years of knowing him." "He kept it secret on purpose, Pastor. He didn't want money to change us." "Smart man." Pastor Williams folded his hands. "So what happens now?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Darius hasn't spoken to me since last night. His wife's family probably hates me. And I just exposed myself to the whole world." "But you told the truth," Pastor Williams said. "Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Doesn't make it wrong." "Darius wants me to apologize." "For what? For having money? For being disrespected? For standing up for yourself?" Pastor Williams shook his head. "Lorraine, you raised that boy right. but somewhere along the way he forgot what matters. Maybe this is his wake-up call. After church, I turned my phone back on. 63 missed calls. 47 text messages. Most from Darius, some from numbers I didn't recognize. 3 from Mr. Hayes, my lawyer. I called Mr. Hayes first. "Mrs. Washington," he said. "I've been trying to reach you. The Montgomery family's attorney contacted me this morning." My stomach dropped. "What do they want?" "They're claiming you caused intentional emotional distress and public humiliation. They're threatening to sue for damages to their reputation." I laughed. Actually laughed. "They want to sue me? For telling the truth?" "It's a baseless claim," Mr. Hayes assured me. "They have no case. But I wanted you to know they're trying to intimidate you. They probably expect you to back down, maybe give them money to make this go away." "Let them try," I said. "I'm not backing down from anything." "Good. I'll handle them. But Lorraine, there's something else. This story is getting media attention. I've had 3 reporters call asking for comments." "What should I do?" "Nothing. Say nothing publicly. Let me handle all communication. The less you say, the better." After I hung up, I finally listened to Darius's voicemails. The first few were apologetic, confused. Then they got progressively more frustrated. The last one made my heart hurt. "Mama, Gabrielle's parents are threatening to sue you. They're humiliated. Their friends are calling asking questions. Gabrielle's crying, saying you ruined everything. I'm caught in the middle here and I don't know what to do. But I need you to fix this, please. Just apologize. Say it was a misunderstanding, something. I'm begging you." I called him back. "Mama!" He sounded relieved and angry at the same time. "Where have you been?" "Church," I said. "Like every Sunday." "We need to talk. Can I come over?" "Are you coming alone?" He hesitated. "Gabrielle wants to come too." "Then no." "Mama." "Darius, I will talk to you. My son. The boy I raised. But I'm not sitting in my house being attacked by that girl and her family. You want to talk? Come alone." Silence. Then, "Okay, I'll be there in an hour." He arrived exactly 60 minutes later, still wearing yesterday's clothes, looking exhausted. We sat in the living room, the same room where he'd learned to walk, where we'd celebrated his acceptance to medical school, where Robert had taught him to play chess. "Why didn't you tell me?" Darius asked. "About the money. Why keep it secret?" "Your father wanted it that way. He wanted us to live real lives, raise you with real values. And we did. You became a doctor because you wanted to help people, not because you needed money." "But Mama, we struggled. You and Daddy worked so hard." "We weren't struggling," I interrupted. "We were living. Real living. We had everything we needed. Food, shelter, love, purpose. The money was just there. Building, waiting." Darius rubbed his face. "Gabrielle's family is furious. They're saying you tried to embarrass them." "Did I lie about anything? Did I make up them treating me bad? Did I imagine being seated at table 19? He couldn't answer. "Baby, answer me this," I said. "Did you know they seated me in the back?" "Not until after the ceremony," he admitted. "Gabrielle told me they moved some people around for better flow or something. I didn't think—" "You didn't ask where your mama was sitting at your own wedding." "I was busy. It was my wedding day." "Too busy to check on your mother?" My voice broke. "Darius, I gave you everything. Me and your daddy sacrificed so much to raise you right. And you couldn't even make sure I had a decent seat at your wedding?" He looked down, shame finally crossing his face. "And when her mama gave that speech," I continued, "talking about humble beginnings and how you learned class from them, you just sat there. You smiled and nodded like she was right. I didn't want to cause a scene, but it was okay for me to be disrespected, as long as you fit in with them? That's not fair, Mama." "Fair?" I stood up, angry now. What's not fair is you becoming someone I don't recognize. Your daddy would be heartbroken seeing who you've turned into. Don't bring Dad into this. He left you a letter too, I said quietly. Mr. Hayes has it. He wanted you to have it after I told you about the money. But I kept waiting for the right time, kept hoping you'd show me you were still the man we raised. Darius stared at me. What does it say? Read it yourself. I went to my bedroom and got the sealed envelope Mr. Hayes had given me months ago. Robert's handwriting on the front, for my son, when he's ready to understand. I handed it to Darius. He opened it with shaking hands and read. I watched his face change as he read his father's words. Tears started falling. When he finished, he looked up at me. He says money is a test, that it shows who people really are, that he hopes I'll always choose character over comfort. You failed that test yesterday, I said softly. You chose their comfort over your character, over your mama. I'm sorry, he whispered. Mama, I'm so sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. You married that girl, you joined that family, and now you have to decide who you're going to be. My phone rang. Mr. Hayes.
Lorraine, we have a problem, he said when I answered. The Montgomerys just filed a lawsuit. They're suing you for $10 million for defamation and emotional distress. It's absurd, but it's official. Darius heard through the phone. His face went pale. They're suing you? He asked. For $10 million? Let them, I said. They'll lose. But even as I said it, I felt the weight of it. These people weren't just insulted. They were coming for me with everything they had. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Vivian Montgomery. You will withdraw that bank statement claim and publicly apologize, or we will destroy you in court and in the media. We have resources you can't imagine. You made a big mistake, Lorraine. I showed it to Darius. He read it and closed his eyes. Mama, maybe you should just apologize, make this go away. No. But they'll drag you through court. They'll make your life hell. Let them try, I said. I told the truth. I'm not apologizing for that. You don't understand, Darius said desperately. These people are connected, powerful. They know judges, lawyers, media people. They can make this really bad for you. And you don't understand, I said, looking my son in the eyes. I didn't survive 63 years in this world by backing down when rich folks got upset. Your daddy didn't build that fortune by being scared. And I'm not about to start being afraid now. Darius stood up, frustrated. Fine, do what you want. But don't expect me to choose between you and my wife. I'm not asking you to choose, I said. I'm asking you to be the man we raised. But if you can't do that, then you've already chosen. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. That's why this hurts so much. He left. The door closed, and I stood in my living room, in my small house, with my $195 million and my broken heart. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Vivian. Since you won't respond, here's what's going to happen. We're calling a press conference tomorrow. We're going to tell everyone you're unstable, possibly suffering from dementia, that you forged that bank statement, and that you've been harassing our family. We'll paint you as a sad, jealous woman who can't stand that her son married into success. And by the time we're done, no one will believe a word you say. I sat down in Robert's chair. For the first time since all this started, I felt scared. Then my phone rang. Pastor Williams. Lorraine, turn on the news, he said. Channel 7, right now. I grabbed the remote, switched to Channel 7, and there it was. A press conference. The Montgomerys, dressed perfectly, standing in front of microphones. Reporters everywhere. Vivian spoke into the cameras.
her voice sad and concerned. "We're heartbroken to have to do this," she said. "But Lorraine Washington needs help. She's clearly suffering from some kind of mental break. She disrupted our daughter's wedding with wild claims about having hundreds of millions of dollars. She's been erratic, possibly delusional. We're concerned for her well-being and her son's future. We're calling for a medical evaluation, and we're prepared to pursue legal action to protect our family from her instability." The reporters shouted questions. Richard spoke next, his voice grave. "We believe Mrs. Washington may be suffering from early-stage dementia or another cognitive impairment. It's the only explanation for this behavior. We're consulting with mental health professionals and considering what legal steps may be necessary." I stared at the screen, my mouth open. They weren't just suing me. They were trying to make everyone think I was crazy. And as I watched, I saw Darius appear on screen, standing slightly behind Gabrielle. He looked uncomfortable, trapped. A reporter shouted, "Dr. Washington, do you believe your mother is mentally unstable?" Darius froze. The cameras zoomed in on his face. I'm concerned about my mother," he said slowly. "She's been under a lot of stress since my father passed. I think she needs support." Gabrielle grabbed his hand, squeezed it, smiled at the cameras, and I watched my son, my baby boy, betray me on live television. I turned off the television and sat in the dark. My son had just told the world I was losing my mind. The phone rang all night. I didn't answer. By Monday morning, the story was everywhere. Cafeteria worker claims 195 bell in fortune, ran on one news site. Family concerned for elderly woman's mental health after wedding outburst, ran on another. My face was plastered across social media, people I'd never met calling me delusional, attention-seeking, pathetic. At 7 a.m., someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Sister Patricia Jenkins and 3 other women from church, Deacon Moore's wife Sharon, Sister Ruth Campbell, and young Sister Tamika, who sang in the choir. I opened the door. "We saw the news," Patricia said, "and we're here to tell you we don't believe a word of it." They came in carrying food, a casserole, fresh bread, sweet tea. They sat me down at my kitchen table. "Lorraine Washington, I've known you 30 years, Sharon said firmly. "You're one of the sharpest women I know. Dementia? Please, that's nonsense, and everybody who really knows you knows it." "They're trying to make me look crazy so nobody believes the truth," I said. "Well, we believe you," Ruth said. "And we're not the only ones. Half the church is ready to testify about your character if it comes to that." "Pastor Williams wants to see you this morning," Tamika added. "Said it's important." An hour later, I was in Pastor Williams's office. But he wasn't alone. There was a woman with him, maybe 40 years old, brown skin, natural hair, wearing a sharp blue suit. She stood up when I entered. "Mrs. Washington, this is Attorney Jasmine Crawford," Pastor Williams said. "She's from my wife's church in Atlanta. When she heard what was happening, she called me." Jasmine shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Washington, I specialize in defamation and elder abuse cases. What the Montgomerys are doing to you is textbook intimidation and character assassination. I want to represent you." "I already have a lawyer," I said. "Mr. Hayes?" "Mr. Hayes is an estate attorney, correct? He's great for managing your assets, but this is heading toward litigation. You need someone who knows how to fight dirty, because that's exactly what the Montgomerys are doing." I sat down slowly. "They're saying I'm crazy." "Yes, and it's a calculated strategy. If they can make you look incompetent, they undermine your credibility and potentially challenge your control over your assets. They're not just trying to embarrass you, they're trying to take your power away." "Can they do that?" "Not if I have anything to say about it." Jasmine opened her briefcase. "I've been researching the Montgomery family all weekend. Richard Montgomery has a history of bullying people in business deals. Vivian serves on charity boards but has been accused of embezzlement twice. Never charged, but the whispers are there. And they're leveraged up to their eyeballs. That mansion? Mortgaged. The business? Struggling. They're drowning in debt while pretending to be wealthy. My eyes widened. So, they're fake rich? They're image rich, cash poor, which means you, with real wealth, are a threat to their entire identity. That's why they're coming at you so hard. What do we do? Jasmine smiled. We prove everything. We document your wealth beyond any doubt. We expose their debts and their character, and we make them regret ever challenging you. How much will this cost? For you? Nothing. I'm doing this pro bono, because what they're doing to you is wrong, and I'm tired of seeing powerful people crush good folks who dare to stand up. I felt tears coming. Why would you do that for me? Because my grandmother was treated like trash by my father's wealthy family when he married her, Jasmine said softly. They called her ignorant, low-class, crazy. She died believing she wasn't good enough. I couldn't help her. But I can help you. That afternoon, Jasmine and Mr. Hayes coordinated everything. Bank statements, investment records, property deeds, tax returns, all of it documented, verified, notarized. By 5 p.m., we had a legal filing ready, a countersuit against the Montgomerys for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and elder abuse. This will be public record, Jasmine warned. Once we file this, your financial information becomes part of the court documents. Everyone will know. Good, I said. Let them know. I'm done hiding. We filed Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, the media narrative started shifting. Woman sues Montgomery family, claims defamation, ran the headlines. Cafeteria manager produces evidence of $195 fortune. Wednesday morning, Jasmine called me. The Montgomerys' attorney wants to meet. They want to settle. Already? They know they're going to lose. The evidence is overwhelming. But Lorraine, there's something you should know. Darius has been trying to reach me. He wants to talk. My heart clenched. What does he want? He wouldn't say. He just said it's urgent and he needs to see you. Tell him no. Are you sure? I'm sure. But Thursday evening, Darius showed up at my house. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, haunted. Mama, please, I just need 5 minutes. I almost closed the door, but something in his face stopped me. I let him in. We sat in the living room. He couldn't meet my eyes. I made a mistake, he said. The biggest mistake of my life. Which part? Marrying that girl? Letting her family disrespect me? Or telling the world I'm mentally unstable? He flinched. All of it. Mama, I was so caught up in their world. In trying to fit in, I lost myself. I convinced myself that's what success looked like. Big house, important people, the right connections. And now? Now I see what it cost me. It cost me my integrity, my values, you. His voice broke. And it's costing me my marriage. I looked at him. What do you mean? Gabrielle's true colors came out once the lawsuit started. She's furious that your money exists because she thought she was marrying down financially. She actually said that she married down. She said if she'd known you were wealthy, she would have treated you completely different. That's exactly the problem, I said quietly. I know that now. And when I confronted her about it, about treating you badly, she said you deserved it for hiding your wealth, like it was some kind of con game instead of just privacy. Where is she now? At her parents' house. She moved out 3 days ago. Said she can't be married to someone whose mother is causing problems for her family. He laughed bitterly. Turns out the Montgomery family is broke, Mama. Their business is failing. They're in massive debt. They were counting on my salary and connections to help bail them out. I know, I said. My lawyer told me. Darius looked up, surprised. You knew?
I have good lawyers, baby. They do their research.
He was quiet for a long moment.
I read Daddy's letter again. The part about money being a test. I failed it, didn't I?
Yes, you did. I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down his face.
I was so desperate to prove I belonged in their world that I forgot I came from something better, something real.
I wanted to reach out to him, wanted to hug my baby boy and tell him it was okay. But it wasn't okay. Not yet.
Sorry isn't enough, I said. You went on television and suggested I was mentally ill. You stood by while they attacked me. You chose them over your own mother.
I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me. But Mama, there's something else. Something you need to know. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking. Gabrielle doesn't know I recorded this, but I did, and you need to hear it. He played a recording. Gabrielle's voice, clear and cruel.
Of course we're going to win this lawsuit. We'll drag that old woman through court until she's broke or dead. My father knows 3 judges personally. We'll make sure she looks so crazy, so incompetent, that Darius gets declared her legal guardian. Then we control the money. All of it.
Another voice, Vivian.
And once we have control, we'll move her into a care facility, somewhere quiet, where she can't cause trouble.
Gabrielle again. Darius will sign whatever we need him to sign. He's so desperate to prove himself to us, he'll do anything. The recording ended. I stared at Darius. They were going to lock me away?
That was their plan. I confronted Gabrielle about it yesterday. She admitted everything. Said it was business. That I was too emotional to see the opportunity.
He looked sick.
Mama, they weren't just trying to embarrass you. They were trying to steal everything from you. My hands shook with rage. And you? I told her if she went through with it, I'd divorce her and testify against her family in court. That's when she left.
He looked at me desperately.
Mama, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, let me help fix this.
Let me testify. Let me tell the truth about everything. I thought about Robert, about what he would want me to do, about forgiveness and family and second chances. Okay, I said finally. But understand something, Darius. You broke my trust. That trust took 34 years to build and 3 days to destroy. It's going to take a long time to rebuild it, if it can be rebuilt at all.
I understand, he said. I'll do whatever it takes.
The following Monday, we were back in court. Not for the wedding incident, that was civil court, scheduled for later. This was an emergency hearing because the Montgomerys had filed for a psychiatric evaluation of me, claiming I was a danger to myself. The courtroom was packed. Media, curious onlookers, half my church congregation, and the entire Montgomery family in their expensive clothes. Looking confident. Judge Andrea Thompson, a black woman in her 50s, presided. She looked stern and no nonsense.
I've reviewed the filings from both sides, Judge Thompson said. The Montgomery family claims Mrs. Washington is experiencing cognitive decline and needs medical intervention. Mrs. Washington's legal team claims this is a harassment campaign. I'm here to determine the facts.
The Montgomerys' lawyer, a slick man in a gray suit, stood up.
Your Honor, Mrs. Washington has exhibited clear signs of delusion. She disrupted a wedding with bizarre claims, she's isolated herself from her son, and she's refusing reasonable medical evaluation. We believe—
Your Honor, Jasmine interrupted, standing. May I present evidence? Judge Thompson nodded. Jasmine submitted document after document. Bank statements, investment portfolios, and property deeds, letters from financial institutions verifying everything. She submitted cognitive tests I'd taken that week, tests that proved I was sharp as a tack. She submitted character references from Pastor Williams, from teachers at my school, from neighbors.
Your Honor, Mrs. Washington is not delusional, Jasmine said.
She's a wealthy woman who chose to live modestly. The Montgomery family's claims are not based on medical evidence. They're based on embarrassment and greed. The Montgomery's lawyer tried to argue, but Judge Thompson cut him off. Mr. Stevens, do you have any medical evidence? Any doctor's evaluation? Anything beyond your client's claims that Mrs. Washington is unwell? Well, Your Honor, her behavior at the wedding was truthful, according to the financial documents before me. What else do you have? Silence. Then Jasmine played the recording. Gabrielle and Vivian's voices filled the courtroom, talking about controlling my money, locking me away, manipulating Darius. The courtroom erupted. Judge Thompson banged her gavel. Order! I will have order! When it was quiet, Judge Thompson looked at the Montgomery family with undisguised disgust. This court finds no evidence whatsoever that Mrs. Washington is mentally incompetent, she said. In fact, the evidence suggests she's exceptionally competent and was protecting herself from people who sought to exploit her. The petition for psychiatric evaluation is denied. She turned to the Montgomery's lawyer. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office. That recording suggests potential conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse. The DA can decide if criminal charges are warranted. Vivian stood up, furious. Your Honor, this is outrageous. We're respected members of this community. You're con artists, Judge Thompson snapped. And you picked the wrong woman to con. Sit down. The Montgomerys' faces went pale. This hearing is adjourned, Judge Thompson said. Mrs. Washington, you're free to go. And, might I add, keep living your life however you want. You've earned that right. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Jasmine handled them while I stood with Pastor Williams and Sister Patricia. Darius approached carefully. Mama, can I walk you to your car? I nodded. We walked in silence until we reached my old Toyota. What happens now? He asked. Now you figure out who you want to be, I said. Do you want to be the man who chases money and status? Or the man your daddy raised? The one who values character and kindness? I want to be the second one, he said. I want to be the man you and Dad raised, but I don't know if Gabrielle can be that person with me. Then you have a choice to make, baby. 3 weeks later, Darius filed for divorce. Gabrielle contested it, demanding half of what she thought were his assets. When she found out Darius had only his salary and student loans, that all the family wealth was legally mine, she signed the papers within a week. The Montgomerys faced multiple lawsuits from people they'd scammed over the years. Turns out, once the news broke, others came forward. Their business collapsed. They had to sell their house. Vivian was removed from her charity boards. Richard Montgomery tried to apologize to me once, outside a court hearing, said they'd made mistakes, that stress made them act badly. Mr. Montgomery, I said, you didn't make mistakes. You showed me exactly who you are, and I'm grateful for that clarity. As for Darius, he moved into a modest apartment near the hospital, started volunteering at free clinics on his days off, came to Sunday dinner at my house every week, slowly earning his way back into my trust. 6 months after the wedding, I was back at Lincoln Elementary, serving lunch to kids who still called me Mrs. Washington and told me about their days. I still lived in my small house, still drove my old Toyota, still shopped at the same stores. But I'd established a foundation, the Robert Washington Foundation for Education. We paid off student lunch debts, provided scholarships, supported teachers, all the things Robert would have loved. One Sunday, after church, Darius came to the house with something in his hand, an envelope. What's this? I asked. A letter, for you. I've been writing it for weeks, trying to get the words right. I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, pages long. Darius had written about his mistakes, his journey back to himself, what he'd learned, about how he'd started therapy, how he was learning to value people over prestige, how he wanted to make his father proud. At the end, he'd written, Mama, I know I broke your heart. I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you that I'm still the son you raised, the one who knows what matters, the one who understands that wealth isn't about money, it's about character, love, and standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. I love you more than words can say. I folded the letter carefully, tears in my eyes. Come here, baby, I said. He came over and I hugged him, really hugged him, for the first time in months. You're not all the way there yet, I told him. But you're on the right path, and I'm proud of you for that. Thanks, Mama, he whispered. That evening I sat in Robert's chair looking at his picture on the wall. You were right, baby, I told him. Money is a test, and it showed me everything I needed to know. The Montgomerys failed. Darius stumbled but found his way back. And me? I passed because you taught me that my worth isn't in my bank account, it's in my character. I thought about that moment in the ballroom, pulling out the bank statement, watching their faces change. About standing up for myself, about refusing to back down. Some people thought I'd been too harsh, that I'd embarrassed them unnecessarily. But I knew the truth. Sometimes you have to stand firm. Sometimes you have to expose people's true colors so they can't hide behind fake smiles anymore. I had $195 million. But I also had my dignity, my community, my values, and my son finding his way back home. And that was the real wealth all along. My phone buzzed. A text from Sister Patricia. Church picnic next week. You bringing your famous potato salad? I smiled and texted back. You know I am, because at the end of the day, I was still Lorraine Washington, still the cafeteria manager who loved her kids at school, still the church member who made potato salad for picnics, still the woman who lived simply and loved deeply. I just happened to have a fortune in the bank too, and I wasn't ashamed of either part anymore. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.